Today I'll be going over 10 tips that'll help improve your drawing. If you already consider yourself fairly advanced in your drawing skills, that's okay. Stay tuned, there may be some helpful hints in here for you as well.
Okay, tip number 1 is going to be set goals you know you can achieve. When I first started drawing, I often made the mistake of trying to draw things I wasn't ready for yet, and I didn't get the most out of that experience. I didn't learn enough. I later found out it's important to set goals for yourself before you even start drawing. It's important to ask yourself, what do I want to accomplish in this piece? What objectives do I want to complete? Another important note is asking yourself, what do I want people to understand from my drawing? And lastly, sometimes, regardless of how you feel about the outcome of your drawing, someone else may love it because of the story that it tells or the fact that they can immediately understand what it was you're trying to say through your art. Tip number 2, look for things to draw instead of trying to imagine them. In other words, the more you understand how something works or why it looks the way it does, the better your drawing will come out in the end. The best advice I've ever received as an artist is probably do your homework and study some more, and then study some more after that. Because the more you pick objects to draw that are around you, the better off you'll be if you're making comics or telling stories or just trying to get all around better as an artist. Tip number 3, use whatever medium feels best. Guys, don't stress out about not having the best pencil or pen or paintbrush or whatever tools your favorite artist uses. Very often you can accomplish the same exact look they came up with without using the same tools they used. And yes, that's office whiteout. You'll see why that's useful later. Tip number 4, think in 3D, 3 dimensions. While you're drawing, you should be able to stop and mentally pull your drawing out from the paper and kind of turn it 360 in your mind and move it around and see its form. This helps with things like figuring out how you should do your shading, or the light is hitting your subject, things like that. And when you have good shading and good lighting and good form and all that comes together, you end up with a great piece. So yeah, think in 3D. You don't want to think 2D, like flat, just like the paper you're drawing on. You want to actually try to carve out what it is that you're drawing on this flat piece of paper. Tip number 5 is raise your canvas. Another mistake I used to make pretty often starting off is not raising up whatever I was drawing on, meaning I would put my sketchbook directly flat on a desk and start drawing, and then later on when I went to pick it up and look at the awesome piece I made, I ended up having like this weird stretched out kind of look because my perspective of my eyes, my face weren't lined up with the paper. So yeah, you definitely want to keep some kind of alignment there. Pick up that sketchbook. This is especially important when you start doing commissions for people or getting paid to do your work. Because later on, if you're trying to sell this thing and it's stretched out, people might kind of notice that. And it might annoy you as well when you look back at it each time if you put it in a portfolio. Tip number 6, try not to erase too much. If you do erase, think about why you erased. Really be mindful about what you're taking away from your drawing each time you do it. It's going to help you use the eraser tool more efficiently. Also, if you do really cool stuff on accident, try to figure out a way to recreate that because it can be a really essential tool later on, right? You want to add these things that you discover to your tool utility belt, like your tool arsenal. It's definitely good to whip out some of these tricks later on. If you've been thinking or trying to figure out how to create your own style, well, this is largely responsible for that. Tip number 7, the old drag the eraser on the ground technique. Muddy or dirty erasers can be a really big problem when you're trying to sketch. This trick can work like a charm in trying to get it cleaner. So when you do go to erase, you're not leaving any black smudges or anything that looks pretty awful. Given the right carpet, this trick can work wonders. It immediately cleans the eraser and you can get right back into action. Tip number 8, try to think in shapes and not in lines. Guys, if you're struggling with your proportions, this is really going to help you stay on track while you're sketching. Laying down a strong foundation with shapes leads to a stronger finished piece every single time. Kind of ties into thinking in 3D. Tip number 9, the bane of my existence. Don't start drawing in details too soon. Let's take this piece here for example. This is a little drawing I did of one of my coworkers for fun. Imagine if I had to draw the rest of her body, right? I have all this detail already. Like how do I properly add to this? It's definitely not going to look as uniform as it would if I would have done it all at once and kind of carved out shapes beforehand. So again guys, try not to put details in too soon, even though it can be kind of exciting at times. I promise it'll pay off. Tip number 10 is going to be using perspective. If you want to keep your drawing interesting or challenge yourself a little, go ahead and try to add perspective to your drawings or little sketches that you do. You can use different guidelines to help you get started. I'm going to be making a video on this later on because it would take too much time to kind of explain specifically on how to use it. But in the meantime, I'll be sure to leave a link in the description to someone else that teaches it pretty well.
One last thing, these tips are not steps, right? They're just tips. So going from 1 to 10 isn't going to guarantee a masterpiece, but I definitely think it'll help you perform and get some better drawings out there. Well, that's all for now, guys. If you found this video helpful, go ahead and give it a like, subscribe, share with your friends, all that good jazz. If you want to see other projects I'm working on, go ahead and head over to my Patreon page, patreon.com/artofisaac, where you can actually donate to help with the creation of these videos, and as well as my art career that I'm working on towards becoming a professional visual developer. As always, thank you for watching, guys. See you later.